Woo! Yo, I got something for you guys today, and I cannot believe I'm covering this after I think 3 years. And yeah, so today I'll be going over one of the first projects that I worked on when I was starting out as a videographer, filmmaker. I don't know what I am. I don't care what the label is. But this is something I never thought I would cover 3 years later. And this project is called Moonlight by SOPHIE CONNART. It's a music video cover. And I cannot wait to show you guys what I have to say about it. So, I'll see you guys after the intro. Let's go. Wow, okay. Alright, so where do I even begin with this? I even remember watching YouTube videos on how to shoot a music video, even though it was just something that I was gonna do for fun with a friend. And I was so nervous and I kept making sure everything was right. I'll be honest with you guys, like the entire time I was shooting it, I was screaming like a little girl inside. Yeah. Looking back at it now, I would say it turned out really great considering that I was just starting out. And so, yeah, today we're going to be doing a music video breakdown of that. And I hope you guys can learn a thing or two. There have been a lot of mistakes that I made when I was just working on this project. And I hope that this shows what to do and not to do. So here we go. So I don't exactly remember all of the details since I pretty much worked on this project like 3 years ago, and I think that was like a 2017. So forgive me if none of this makes sense. This will be divided into 3 segments: pre-production, production, and post-production. 3 steps. So let's start with the pre-production. I don't remember if I used any references to many music videos when it came to researching this project. What I do remember is using photo references to show what it was gonna look like, what kind of style, and the overall look of this video. It pretty much revolves around the idea of just a friendship where one felt out of place, I guess, in a sense, in comparison to her other friend. That was the storyline that we were actually gonna go with, but we ended up scrapping it due to whatever reasons that we had at that time. After scrapping that whole idea, that whole storyline, this video eventually became just basically like a performance takes only, along with the B-roll footage. We were supposed to shoot at 4 locations, but we ended up shooting at 3. Baytown Wharf, her house, and I believe Eden Garden State Park. We shot the performance takes around at December 7, 2019. This was at her house first, and then December 9, 2017. And this was the performance shots at the Baytown Wharf and Eden Garden State Park. God, that is a hard name to say. We were supposed to shoot at both locations on one day, and that's what we exactly did. So yeah, at this time I actually didn't know what I was supposed to do or what was the right way of going about shooting a music video. I didn't take the time to think about the weather and doing location scouting, which involves seeing what the location has to offer in person rather than just looking at it pictures. Location scouting is the most important part of the process during pre-production and also when it comes to making sure that quality of the project is as top-notch as it can be. If I had to say one thing to my younger self when I was starting out, take as much time as you can in pre-production, because the number of hours that you invest in pre-production will always give you the best end result of whatever it is that you're working on. You never know what else is gonna go wrong. You never know what you're gonna miss until you shoot the day. So it's better to get prepared than going in and half-assing every shot or half-assing every scene. Sorry for my language, but that's the truth. So I shot this video with the Canon T7i, and it was set up in this small setup, like in a small rig cage with a rod on the top and a handle which held up this giant this giant monitor. I have no idea why I picked a 7-inch monitor, but that's what I used. I used the 50mm lens, and that was the only lens that I used the entire time that I shot this video. And I love this lens for mainly 2 reasons. One, it had an aperture of I think 1.8, and for its size. The only issue that I have with this camera setup is that this T7i specifically, it only had a sensor that is called APS-C. With that sensor, it brought in a crop factor, changed to 50mm. It changed from 85mm to 100mm lens, somewhere around that range. And it was very challenging to shoot with this setup in a tight space area, especially in one of the performance takes that I shot, which was inside a room. Lighting wise, if I remember right, I had this tiny cube shaped LED panels. It was something that I had in the garage, and you know what, why not? Let's use whatever we have. And that was pretty much I had. As for crew members, it was pretty much just friends. I had Ian Lovin come on as I would say, just a production assistant, and probably, I think, a second camera operator. Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was a very small crew, basically 3 people. Sophie CONNART as an artist, me as the director and DP, and Ian Lovin as the production assistant. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to do something like this, and the fact that this helped me solidify my confidence and my choice to turn this into a career. That is something I will always be grateful for when it comes to talk about this video. So yeah. So let's talk about the scenes. I want to cover this particular scene that I would consider one of the favorites in this project, and that is the carousel scene. How we got the shot was like, I remember just going around in Baytown Wharf, just basically wandering around in this area looking for the next location to shoot at, and we found this carousel at the edge of the boardwalk. I don't remember where it was exactly located. We asked the guy who operated this carousel to let us shoot a couple takes. How we did this was I had Sophie stand on the carousel and also had her sit on top of one of the horses, while I sat at least I would say 2 or 3 feet away from her in one of the chairs in the carousel. And each time we went around, I had her perform the song and sang all the way through it during the entire ride. There were so many things going on this image, which made it very visually pleasing, at least to me. There was so many moving parts in the image. There was like the movie background, and that you had these horses coming in and out of focus. I would say there was some sense of framing in terms of composition. I just loved the scene so much, and yeah, I'm glad I got this scene. Yo, I remember getting lost in this neighborhood when I was trying to find her house. I remember getting lost for like an hour and a half, and it was raining really hard. It turned out that I passed the house like 3 times. 3 times. It was Sophie who came up with the idea of using clouds and having them bounce or hang from the ceiling. It turned out great. So going back to the issue with this camera sensor and the fact that it was only APS-C, and the fact that I was shooting on a 50mm, it wasn't wide enough for me to be able to get all the clouds and her in a white image. And we had supplies of cloud cotton balls, I guess. I think that's what they're called, cotton balls. And then we had like the string lights wired in and around of this cotton balls and had like strings and attached on top of the ceiling. And we also use LEDs, the small LEDs, and a cellophane paper. We used that to wrap around this LED to give it more of a neon looking vibe. I wanted this color to be splashed across the room, just basically covering it and turning it to like a neon vibe. Looking back at it now, I would say that was a very bad choice, considering the fact that you're having 2 colors clash within one another. First of all, you had the string light, and now you're adding in neon and blue, and that just, to me, it just didn't really blend very well. I was on top of the table, and I was pretty much shooting directly in front of Sophie CONNART, just staying still. Anyway, let's move on to the Eden Garden State Park. And I didn't have any say or control or any advice on how Sophie was supposed to dress up. I just basically said, yeah, dress up however you want. And she came in looking like, basically like a queen of the forest, like one of those princesses that you see from the movie Brave. And then I think it fit very well. I think. Yeah, in one of the scenes that I shot in this Eden Garden State Park was we had her stand in front of the tree line. Well, how we basically shot this was I was just swaying back and forth from left to right subtly, and I had Ian hold a sound catcher. And then after that, after shooting in front of the tree line, we also had her shoot in front of this house, which was a historical museum or of a house that was set, I guess, in the middle of the Eden Garden State Park. I remember doing like a 360 performance take around her, and then one static shot of her singing the entire song directly in front of her and having the house in the background. We shot some of the B-roll with her hands just basically touching the leaves and having her just rub her hands across the tree bark, the tree surface, and the leaves. And one of the issues that I remember having to fix was how she was dark in the front, but everything behind her was bright. And so I remember asking Ian to get like this white board, and I had him hold it in front of her in a diagonal angle to help bounce the sunlight onto her body and her face, which gave enough brightness to her body without having to sacrifice the ISO and bring in more grain onto the image. Alright, let's move on to the other one, the Bountain scene. There were two performance takes. One where she was standing in this pathway and we had the sun bouncing or basically shining right behind her. And the other was her sitting on the bench and I was shooting right across this fountain or pool. In the fountain scene, it was pretty much static the entire way through. One of the mistakes that I made with this one is how I did not realize was that shooting at lower apertures was going to be a little bit more risky. Mainly because shooting at lower apertures will basically give you more of a difficult time to make sure your subject in the frame is as sharp as it can be. And I didn't realize that until after I started editing it. And she was still blurred. She wasn't as crisp, as sharp and in focus as I thought it would be. The second performance take was basically like a 45-degree angle from her position, and I was just moving from left to right, shooting through this bush, this leaves in front of her. And then the third one was where she was standing on the pathway, and we had the sun coming in and out in the back, and it created this silhouette effect. It gave her like a glow on her right side, I believe. It was a pretty much simple cut and dry performance shot. Alright, now we're moving on to the last stage of this video, which is the post-production. Color grading. I would say the color grading could use a lot more changes because I was not taking in factor of how the skin like after applying LUTs and after adjusting each of the shadows, the highlights to make the image to create an overall look. I just didn't take in factor of how much it would affect the highlights, the shadows, the color for skin. There were much more better ways to edit this in terms of color grading. But at the end, I'm happy at how it turned out considering the fact that I had no idea what I was doing. As far as editing goes, it was pretty much cut and dry between adding B-roll and her performance takes. And what I did in this one was I watched the video over and over again to see which part felt boring or which part felt like it needed more excitement. If there were any parts of the music video that needed a change, like if one scene was running on too long, that's the time where I would just add in a different scene. Anyway, that's pretty much I could say about this project as far as what I remember. But yeah, I would say overall, I think there were a lot of ways that I think could have been done in a much better way, in a much more efficient way. But, you know, you are the harshest critic of yourself as an artist. And I'm really happy with all of the experience that this video gave me, and I'm really happy with the fact that this helped me become more confident and becoming a filmmaker and turning that into a full-time career. So yeah, that is pretty much I got for you guys today. I hope you learned something from this. Maybe a thing or two. If not, then I'm sorry I wasted your time. But other than that, if you like this video, leave a comment down below and leave a like, subscribe for more. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.